Welcome back, guys, to a brand new live stream. Let me just check my audio is fine. Yep, it is fine. Hope you guys are having a very good day and a good week. Where is it? Weekday? Yeah. What day is it today? It's Wednesday. Hope you guys are having a very good Wednesday. The market has obviously pumped. I'm sure all of you guys are aware and you're all very happy. On the last live stream, I told you guys that BTC broke out of this bearish pattern and we had about 6 to 7 days consecutive breakout and we held this region right here. And recently, the last day or two, we have exploded all the way up to about 94K. And this was on the back of a very bullish news from Trump himself. President Trump says the US will have a fair trade deal with China. China just today, just a few minutes ago, before I started this live stream, just announced that China says is open to resuming trade talks with the United States. Now, before you guys get too ahead of yourself, there is some other catalysts. For example, Treasury Secretary Benson, or Bensonet, whatever the fuck his name is, says a full trade deal with China may take 2 to 3 years. On the back of this news, Bitcoin had a sharp decline over here, all the way down to 91K, from 94 to 91. The market obviously overreacts on this bearish and bullish news. The reason is because this entire move was due to Trump saying he's going to make a deal with China. And then as soon as someone comes out and says that the deal might take 2 to 3 years, the market obviously will react negatively to that. Now, despite this crazy pump, and a lot of altcoins is pumping, you guys got to realize BTC dominance is still at all-time highs. People are not willing to change their BTC for any altcoin. Some people are. You see a little decline, but if you look at Ethereum as a whole, it has bounced, but we want Ethereum to ideally get above this region right here, which is the 2000 level. Even if it get to the 2000 level, I think that will be very bullish for Ethereum. That's the I think that's the area that Ethereum needs to reach before we could say that, dominance is going to start coming down sufficiently. And in the short term, what I'm expecting for the markets is for the next day, 2 to 3 days, maybe 4 to 5 days, if there's no more news coming out, the market will likely to rally. And the reason is because USDT dominance came and wicked exactly off this long-term trend line, got rejected, came back down and broke this pattern over here again. And now I do think we'll most likely get a short-term pullback. And then if there's no catalyst or news that, where Trump comes out and says he's increasing the tariffs back on China, the market is likely to rally. However, you guys have to be very, very careful because on the end of this month, we have very, very important data that will come out. One of them is very simply the Bank of Japan decision rate. You guys know the Bank of Japan, the carry trade, there's trillions of dollars in the carry trade, but it is forecasted to stay the same. And that is because of how strong the yen is currently. So the market is expecting no rate hikes from Japan, which is very, very good because the market can rally. However, there is a very big event on the 30th of April that every single one of you will have to look out for, because GDP growth quarter over quarter is, the previous was 2.4. Keep that in mind, 2.4. However, is forecasted, and this was from the Atlantic Fed, to come in at minus 1.2. Now, for those of you guys that understand how GDPs work and etc., well, it's very, very simple. A lot of the GDP, 25%, comes from government spending. We know that Doge has been cutting government spending, and what that does is it drags inflation and GDP at the same time. And that is why the forecast for this is minus 1.2. Now, this is going to scare people if it does come in at 1.2, because what that signals is recessionary territory and the market will tank. However, this is a 50-50 chance. And the reason is because GDP can be artificially manufactured, or they can change the data, manipulate the data. Most of the GDP comes from printing. If it wasn't for the government consistently and continuously printing for the last 4 years, we would have already been in a depression. Through continuous printing, GDP has been, reasonably high, because most of GDP, like I said, 25% comes from government spending. So if the government's printing and spending a bunch of money, GDP will stay inflated. And that's why we haven't really announced a recession yet. But if it comes in at 1.2 minus 1.2, that will scare the market. So this is a day that you guys will have to be very, very careful. If you have trades, I wouldn't recommend to trade. If the market continues to pump, it's okay to take some off the table closer to this date, because if it comes in 1.2, you're going to see the market tank in a very aggressive manner. We are currently seeing the death rally, well, the death cross rally. So before we go into a death cross, the market tends to tank, which is why we've seen this jump to 74K. And then you normally get a lockout rally after the death cross. And then what you see is you either get a lower low where Bitcoin could potentially come down here, and this would correlate with negative GDP. If it comes in okay, then we could potentially see just a little rally, maybe, a dump maybe to 85. Lowest I would say is 80K. So it will be a higher low. This is something that you guys have to keep in mind. Don't get too excited. I know when the market is pumping, everyone likes to get happy, but there is events that is coming in the next 7 days that will shift the market. If it comes in positive and the BOJ isn't going to raise the interest rates, we are going to rally into May. Now, the chances of a rate cut in May is basically zero. The market rallied, stocks recovered. When the stocks were going down, people were expecting rate cuts. Since stocks are rallying, Bitcoin's rallying, this is basically a 94%. However, we are expected to get rate cuts in June. That is because inflation is coming down aggressively, currently 2.4. And I do think it will continuously go down even in the next month. When the next month data come in, I'm expecting inflation to go down further, and I'm expecting unemployment to slowly creep back up, and that will incentivize the Fed to actually cut rates. And the only reason I don't think Powell he's scared to cut rates is very simple, is because of the 10-year bond. This is not normal. The bond market is not behaving normally. When the market, the bond should be down here somewhere. And a lot of people was, and even myself, was speculating that the reason the bonds has gone up was because that China was selling. However, the recent data that's come out is actually shown that China, this red line over here, has actually been buying bonds. You see this little wick up here? They've been buying. Japan been buying. UK been buying as well. Well, they've got rid of some, but they're starting to buy again. And it's very, very simple, because these guys think ahead. If the bond market, the 10-year bond continues to rise, and when it gets close to the 5%, to the 4.8%, and that's why I've drawn this line, it hit off this line and got rejected. If it hits off this region, the Fed will have to step in and then start buying the bonds again. This is what most likely will happen if the bond market continues to rally. The 2-year looks okay. It's had a little rally, but ultimately, the bond market isn't behaving how it should behave. The dollar is looking weak. And, one of the things that Trump said or mentioned quite often regarding the dollar and regarding the currency is a lot of these countries, specifically Japan, tends to do a lot of currency manipulation. We call it Forex manipulation, where they buy the dollars. When the dollar is strong, they buy a bunch of dollars, and then with the dollars, they go and buy their own currency, which obviously puts the price of their currency higher. And when the dollar is weak, what tends to happen is all these central banks, Europe, Japan, China, they start printing because the dollar's weak, and they can afford to take a little hit on their currency because of how weak the dollar is. And then you get M2 money supply flying up, which is currently what's happening now. And it could be correlated. A lot of people, the news, a lot of people say the news will tell you the chart. The M2 money supply broke out and is very correlated with Bitcoin. So you most likely will see a low pullback and then most likely continue higher. So according to the global M2 money supply, and that is because on the back of the dollar. I do think the dollar will eventually have a little rally. So he almost got to 96 region, had a bounce. This was expected. Gold is having a major pullback. And that was because when you start hearing all retail investors telling you to buy gold, that is when you should take profit. Now, I do think gold will most likely continue to go higher. This is the type of environment, macro environment, that gold tends to thrive. Because when there's a lot of uncertainty, people always go to gold. That's just a safe haven. And recently, Bitcoin has become that safe haven as well, just because of how weak the stock market has been recently, and Bitcoin rallying. So it's doing what gold is doing. This is what Bitcoin is made to do. Anyways, Legend, good to see you. Merkel, good to see everyone in the chat. Silver, Cook, Jobin, good to see you. Southflex, my friend, good to see you. Fizz, good to see you. Lavar, good to see you. Declan, good to see you. Abs, good to see you, my friend. Stefan, good to see you. Bullrun, not yet. I think we are starting a substantial, but I do think we'll have one more pullback before a pump. You're making gems gains. You should actually join the group. Yeah, so for those of you guys, Abs is my Solana guy. This guy makes some crazy calls. During the last week or two, this guy will find the craziest Solana coins that will just pump aggressively. He found a coin that did a 20x in the space of a week, less than a week. Another one that done 8x, another one that done 6x, and he found another one that done a 3x, and he found another one that done another 5, 6x. This guy will find anything on Solana, and he finds these narratives because a lot of people think AI is just one narrative, but there's a lot of sub narratives in an AI, and there's sub narratives within AI agents as well. And that's what Abs looks for. And he's been making quite a few people in the group, because I have sections in my group. I have the general, I have the trade, even the trade section. The last couple of days, they've been printing stupid amounts of money. They've been trading Popcat, all these coins, 10x, 20x leverage. And in the space of a couple of days, in the space of a couple of hours, actually, you can make 10x, 5x, on your investment on these trade codes. And Abs is one of those guys that will find these very, very degen coins that no one's ever heard of, and they'll just come out and do a 20x, just like in the last week. So I appreciate all of that, Abs, my friend. We are making some crazy gains in the private. Complete, good to see you. Cool, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you as well, Shabazz. How you doing, bro? Pump Mubarak finally. My friend, how you doing? 5,700 EE. That's a crazy name. Mayo, good to see you, my friend. You changed your name now, Dave Mayo. Yeah, Mayo, good to see you. We are so back. I think we are definitely back. I think one of the major catalysts, and Trump had to bend the knee to China, and it was very, very simple, because the reason that Trump caused this crash in the markets was very, very simple. I've explained this a million times. It was to refinance the debt. When you cause uncertainty, the bond market will spike up. The last time the bond market had this major spike was during COVID, was before the financial crisis in 2008. And when you see the bond market aggressively shoot up in this manner, people are selling the bonds. They're uncertain about the US economy. They don't like Trump or whatever the reason is, they're selling the bonds. And this is not what Trump wants, because he wants this rates lower so you can refinance the debt, save $100 to $400 billion. And because they will have to increase the debt ceiling. There's no other option. They can't go back because they're still in a $2 trillion deficit. For them to cancel out this deficit, and for them to actually make the dollar not fucking to have a deficit, if your dollar's getting weak all the time, you're losing value on your dollar, they have to cut approximately 1 trillion just from the government side. But they can't do that, because at the moment, Doge is only cutting 100 billion. That's 10x away. So it's not going to work. So the only solution for these guys is to continue print. And eventually, this Ponzi scheme that's been going on for decades will eventually collapse. You might get a new financial system. You might get a new payment system. It could be anything. It could be crypto. It could be some CBDCs. It could be anything. But this Ponzi scheme will eventually collapse, because you can't print. Eventually, printing will do nothing. How many countries? Look at Argentina. Look at Venezuela. Their currency has had so much inflation that there's money just lying on the ground on the roads because it's worthless. That's what eventually happens to all these currencies. Currency, this fiat system is a massive Ponzi scheme, and is the biggest scam in the world. That's why you should never hold. If you got money in your bank that you don't need and you're never going to use, why would you save it in fiat? You're only going to lose value on your money, on your savings. You put it into an asset that appreciates more than your currency depreciates, which is, I don't know, 10% a year, 20% a year. I don't know what it is. So you go into Bitcoin, which is for the last God knows how many years, has appreciated 40% every single year. S&P doesn't do that. Gold doesn't normally do that. So you go into the best asset, which is Bitcoin, it will give you more gains than your currency devaluing. So that's something you guys have to take in consideration, especially for the people that are serious investors. Some people don't give a shit. They just want to make some money and get out. That's just how it is. No one cares, gets into the so-called small gems. What do you mean? Everyone gets into them, bro. Quite a few people get into them and they do very well. Rivals or AI tech? Let's see. Rivals or AI tech? AI tech's chart is looking very bullish, and it has pumped very nicely, and that is because I think the selling pressure has slowed down now. There was a lot of selling pressure the last month, 2 months, and that was stopping the price. Well, it was just continuously going down, and eventually we had a double bottom. Boom, we had a pump out of this bearish pattern. We had a retest of the pattern, and then we went back up. So it was a very, very bullish. The only thing I don't like about Rivals is very simply the fact that this will continuously go lower. It's a very, very good project, and I do think it has a lot of potential in terms of the product they're building and everything they are doing. But you have to take in consideration vesting schedules play a major role. The reason AI Tech dumped so heavily was because of the vesting schedule, was nothing else. This unlock will start in 27 days and is the early investors, and they hold 30% of the supply. So I would potentially wait till next month to see how this unlock affects the price. If it's going to, continuously affect and hold the price down, then I wouldn't invest into it because the unlocks play a major role on this project. So currently 2.5 million. By the end of the year, it will be 4 million. So less than 1x dilution. So it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It all depends on your risk tolerance. One's a $30-40 million coin, and one's like 2 to 3 million. I think it's 2.5 million right now for this project. So it all depends on your risk tolerance, my friend. Deepin hasn't really had a pump the last year and a half. So if you want to buy a Deepin coin because you think Deepin will do well this year, which I do think it will, a lot of the bigger companies coming out on interviews saying projects with data centers and GPU, projects that provide GPU will do very well this year. And I agree with them. Everything we use requires GPU, and there isn't enough of it. So if you have a data center like AI Tech does, they're building at least. They're almost finished it. I don't know if I can know, but they're building a data center. They provide GPUs. They have an AI agent marketplace. I would personally go with AI Tech because Rivals just does AI agents. AI Tech does AI agents and GPU. So I would rather go with AI Tech. But like I said, it depends on your risk tolerance. Rivals may outperform just because there's so much lower market cap. But if you want something that has, look at the volume on AI Tech, 11 million, that's very, very strong volume, which means there's a lot of trading happening on this project. So, it all depends. You can go heavier on AI Tech, but you can also be degen and chuck some small amount of money into Rivals, and it could give you some decent returns. Izzy, good to see you. Jamie, good to see you, buddy. People should ignore the rift between China and never lies obvious reason there. Yeah, I agree with you. My friend. It's all mostly priced in anyways. The tariffs have, 99% been priced in now. Even if China comes out tomorrow and says, we're keeping the tariffs the same, no one's going to give a shit anymore. People's moved on now. Now the story is Trump versus Powell. And even then, Trump came out and said that he's not going to fire Powell. You can't fire Powell anyways, but I don't think it's smart to even do that because a lot of these other countries, what they will do is they will, because Powell is gone, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and it will cause the market to crash again because no one knows who's going to come in next. So there's going to be a whole shift in policy. That guy might come in and start, increasing interest rates, something stupid like that. Or he might never start printing, or he might be against printing, or he's starting QE. Some countries are not going to like that. So it just is a lot of headache, and I don't think Powell needs to be fired. I think Powell's got a message now, and I do think he will cut interest rates in June. So there's nothing to be worried about at the moment. Should all be good to see you. Still got spots open. Yes, I do have spots open. I've kicked over 100 people on my private group, bro. Over 100 people. G, can you use what Zero's been doing? We thought he was dead. PC was 0. Yeah, I've seen 0, bro. It's been fucking pumping stupid amounts. 0, bro, just went. So we did like a fucking 4x or some shit. I don't know why this pumped, but it did a very good pump, bro. Stupid amounts. It's crazy, bro. Look at this. It rallied just in the space of literally 2 days or 1 day. Actually, it was like 1 day, just exploded up. So all the whales must have just pumped the shit out of this. It was dead. I mean, when you say it was dead, look at that chart, bro. Did that not look dead? Dead. It went from 60 cents, 66 cents, down to almost 2 cents. Well, just below 2 cents. That is basically dead, my friend. And then just rallied back up. And when the market gets bearish again, it will just go back down again. But it won't go down as aggressively because of this pump. A lot of people are going to have this on their watch list. So when it starts dropping, people are going to start DCAing it down on the expectations that it will probably pump again. It probably will. I think AI agents is definitely an area that I think will go mainstream. I think AI agents will go mainstream. So hold your AI agent coins. One of them is Sensei. Sensei just got a new listing on some, I don't know what the fuck this is, some Telegram bot system. So what it does is just gets more people trading Sensei now. So you can trade it on this bot. And this is a pretty decent bot. So yeah, this is good. They're developing, they go into all these events. This is the type of AI agents I think can go mainstream. I think this is some AI agents can only be used in Web3, and then there's some AI agents that will most likely or have the potential to actually go mainstream and be used in Web2. And I think Sensei is one of those that can be used in Web2. And the difference is the AI agents in Web3, they're not going to generate revenue. They're not going to be a sustainable. They might. Can you guys hear me now? It should be changed a little bit. Let me know if the sound is back now. Fucking stupid as shit. I don't know why it does this all the time. Or it doesn't all the time. Sounds good. Okay, perfect. Like I said, I think there's a big difference between Web3 projects and projects that are sounds good. Okay, perfect. Okay. Anyways, there's a difference between Web2 projects or Web3 projects that is sound off again. It's not no sound is on, bro. Sound is on. You probably I have 8K. I would like to invest in a large cap. What would you recommend? So on the last live stream, I told you guys to trade or invest into Sui or laptop mic. Yeah, it is my laptop mic, bro. Well, it's not my laptop mic. It's my fucking webcam mic. It should be all right anyways, but my other mic is acting up, so I don't even want to connect to it. But anyways, as long as you guys can understand, it should be fine. But I told you guys to trade or invest into Sui, add 2-3x leverage, and guess what happened? Sui just pumped the last day 47% in 1 day. That's for a high cap. If this was a low cap, I'll be like, yeah, that's fine. It's a normal day for a low cap. But this is a high cap. You put 2 to 3x leverage on this, you've already almost doubled your money. So you would have got, instead of a 1x, you would have got a free 2x on this on this investment. Ondo, the exact same thing. It just had a crazy pump. Now that Ondo is listed on Binance, it will have a lot more volume, a lot more money coming in. So this done very well as well. Why is Ondo only? I think it's pumped more than 15%. I'm pretty sure it has, because it was down like 70 cents, 73 cents. So it's done more than that. But anyways, guys, Let's go over some of the comments. 1 second, hold on. What was I at? Because I missed quite a few. Okay, appreciate that, my friend. T-Bird, good to see you, bro. How you doing? How you doing? Walaikum salam, bro. How you doing? ATR looking good, up 40% today. Yeah, ATR is a very fast moving asset. I told you guys, in terms of RWA, this one is always going to pump aggressively. So if you got in at the lows around 1.1, you would have been up pretty much 40 to 50% on this investment. This was one of those assets that's that is very retail friendly. It means everything's catered towards the community. Everyone, every decision is made through a DAO. When they want to burn, where they want to allocate, so they have a system where every couple of months or every quarter they'll do 33% burn, 33% buybacks, and then 33% for staking. So everything is done for the community, and then you get to choose, what percentage you want. So do you want 40% burns, and then 20%, I don't know, buybacks, and then 10% staking, whatever the system is. That's what they do. So we are potentially going to get another burn. Now they did come out and say, they made another DAO or another proposal to basically get on the base chain. So what they will do is, and this is quite smart because they burn tokens anyway. So you guys can see if you actually voted. Should ATR become on base, so the token marketplace wouldn't migrate, obviously. So we'd simply burn tokens on Solana and then mint it over to the base. So those tokens that's getting burnt on Solana would then get or add it as liquidity for the base. So now, when base goes parabolic and Solana will always do well, what you get is you get both chains doing well, and people look for RWA coin on base, and this will come up on Monday, which brings more buying pressure when the narrative takes off. So I think this is a very good move, and I think this is a smart move from the ATR team. And these guys are, I think it will do very, very well. And the last pump, it done like a 7x in the space of a month. So give it a few months, you do a minimum of 10x, in my opinion. Pip, good to see you as well. Quasi, good to see you. I'll do coin reviews in a bit, my friend. So just post it one more time. Yeah, I've been banging on a lot of leverage recently, bro. I've been doing a lot of trades on leverage, doing very well. Alt is best one to DCA at the moment. I do think so. Alt is only up like 15%, so it hasn't really pumped crazy amounts. So if you want to potentially grab something, it probably will have to be Alt because it's only up, I think, 16%. Yeah, 15.7%. So it hasn't really pumped too much. The difference is, some of the developments that's been going on for Alt is actually pretty crazy because they've just partnered, or this AI bundle alliance, whatever the fuck you want it. They've just partnered with all these companies, including Aether. They was already partnered with Aether, but now they've formed an alliance with ChainGPT, Y Combinator, which is I think there's an exchange. You got Polyhydra, which is quite a decent project. You got GeoNet, which is a robotics company. You got decentralized agents. You got IoTex. These are the companies that Alt has already partnered with, pretty much. Oasis is also part of their alliance. So they have two. They have their own alliance, and they've also joined this alliance as well. So this is a major move for Alt, I think. I think what you're going to see now is you're going to see, all these partners over here. You're going to see Alt start announcing them one by one. So they're going to partner with all these companies, all these projects, and I think the price will probably go up. And then they've also pretty much burned the 800 million tokens. We probably will see that. I don't know what the actual back end is, but hopefully we'll see it after fully diluted. So the fully diluted should be, it should be renewed 40 million cheaper. So the market cap to, fully diluted ratio will come down. Overkill, good to see you as well, buddy. How you doing? Omar, good to see you. Walaikum salam, bro. I hope you're doing fine. Definitely the best of DC didn't pump you. Hey, pumped, not much, but it's pumped like 14, 15%, which is not a lot. But yeah, always one of those that's always going to be a slow mover just because it hasn't been around long enough and not enough people talk about it. There's literally like 4 or 5 people that talk about it. So, but they are starting to get more KOLs. They partner up with a lot of Binance KOLs. Currently, the basement for more considered 50% of the edge. Not bad. 15% is still bad though, to be fair. Mode is a pretty decent AI agent project, and I don't know if it's pumped yet, but it was doing very well, and then it just slumped and just did not want to recover. I don't know what the back end of this project is in terms of what happened to it. I need to look into the vesting schedule. Like I said, when the market is bullish, no one gives a shit about vesting schedules, because it just doesn't affect it. There's too much buying pressure. But when the market gets bearish, the vesting schedule on these projects play a major role. You can see crazy dumps on just based off vesting schedules and consistent unlocks, which is what happened with AI tech. Consistent unlocks for over a year just did not allow it to pump. And now those unlocks have stopped. I think this year will be a good year for AI tech. Andy, good to see you. Tim, good to see you as well, buddy. Let's have a look. I have 8K. I would like to invest. I already answered that. Yeah, it is my laptop, my bro. It is my laptop. Yeah, Zero Ball had a crazy drop. Look, the problem with these AI agent coins was a lot of them dumped way more than people anticipated. The thing is, these type of projects, the whales will just push it up higher and higher, and then when they're done, they will just they will crash it back down. This is not a normal pump because they did not release any crazy fucking news, that made it pump like this. This is just whale manipulation. They will just pick one project, just like they chose Mavia. They will pick another project and just start sending it stupid amounts. And then look what happened to Mavia. Give this a couple of weeks, I guarantee you it will dump over 100%. It'll probably go down to like 2 to 3 cents again. So don't FOMO in now thinking you missed the boat. No. The reality is as soon as Bitcoin goes back down, which you will, there's always going to be corrections after a massive pump. Bitcoin will have a correction. We do have GDP coming out, like I said, on the 30th, which could crash the markets because it's forecasted to come in minus 1.2, which will be recession territories, and the Fed might have to step in at that point. So that you guys have to be very careful at this current moment. If you have cash on the side, keep cash on the side. Don't FOMO in. There's nothing to buy now unless there's some project hasn't pumped. It's okay to DCA small amounts, but the reality is there's something. There's an event that could drop the markets. And one thing that I always tell people is buy when everyone's scared. And people say this, and everyone says this. It's a common fact in crypto, but not many people apply it. Even to this day, I get messages in my free Telegram group, which is the link in the description. You guys can join it, called HTBTC. Even to this day, people message in there and say, what can I buy now? When everything's pumped 30, 40, 50, 60%, they want to buy when everything's green. And then they'll start moaning when it starts dumping again. But you buy when no one's scared, and then you sell or take some small profits off when the market pumps. Because these type of pumps are not, especially for projects like this, that's pumped this much. If you're holding this project, you'd be stupid not to take some profits off the table. 2 billion market cap for oil to be released. I think it's possible. It could not happen maybe this month or this year, but I think once QE comes, I think oil will definitely go to the billions. I think the reality is many projects when the bear market starts will die. They will die, and very few projects will stay. So amongst the AI coins, there's probably thousands. I guarantee there'll probably be 100 of them still developing and left over into the next cycle. Now, I do think AI will still be around next cycle, and I think it will still do well because AI is just going to be the future. It's very obvious. Everyone's going into AI, and everyone's still developing AI. We're still, we're very, very far away from the level of AI that people are anticipating for the future. So AI is kind of just starting at the moment. So I do think AI will be a prominent thing in the future. Now, Web3 projects and decentralized AI does not have to replace Web2 because that will take decades. We're not holding these coins for decades. They could just take a certain percentage of the market share, like Hort is doing, the earning revenue from their products, and that's what those are the projects that's going to be around for multiple cycles, and they're going to do very well. I think once if they get maybe one more tier 2 exchange, or maybe no tier one. I don't think tier 1 will probably come at a later stage, maybe at the end of the fucking, because they did say they are going to get a tier 1 exchange. They mentioned it last year on the AMA. They will get it, and they said they will get it mid-year or possibly towards Q3, Q4. So a tier 1 is likely to happen and the reason is because they got the connections. They're very close to Binance. The head of the BD manager in Binance got invited to the event in Hong Kong when they formed the alliance. So there's quite a few people behind them. in terms of tier 1 listings, and they all get maybe a Bybit, maybe an OKX. Those type of listings they can easily get. ATR has fallen 65% since the beginning of the year. What does that mean, bro? What does that even fucking mean? The high caps has fallen 65 to 75%. What does that even mean? The whole market went down 65 to 90%. So what I don't understand what you're trying to say. Why is it always one guy that comes and just says retarded shit all the time on the live stream? What the fuck are you on about, bro? Every single project in the crypto space since the beginning of the year went down 65 to 90%. If you think every project in the crypto space is a scam, what the fuck are you even doing here? But why is there always one fucking retard on every live stream, bro? So annoying, bro. Someone ban this little clown, bro. Every single project since the beginning of the year, including Ethereum, went down 55 to 60%. Ethereum, the number 2 in the asset. Bitcoin went down 30%. Bro, why the I'm gonna ban this prick, bro. What the fuck is wrong with this guy, bro? Always one retard, bro. He just comes and just starts waffling, bro. Fucking hell. But there's always one clown on every live stream, bro. Just one clown on every single live stream. They're just, what the fuck are you even doing here, bro? Why are you in crypto? You probably, bro. This is why people stay broke. Every single project. Oh, this project fell 65%. What do you mean, bro? The whole crypto market fell that much. Why are you in crypto then? Fucking clown, bro. And all falling 68% is a compliment because that is what the top 100 coins fell as well. 65% is pretty good considering everything went down minimum 30%. Bitcoin went down 30%. Ethereum went down 50%. Most of the top 100 coins went down 60 to 75%. The lower caps, 80 to 90%. So, I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. But these guys only look at specific projects. They don't realize the whole market. They don't look at the whole market because they're just stupid, man. People are just stupid, bro. Nasdaq is about 50% gains a year, so break even, currency debasement. Bitcoin is the best for normies. If they hold 5-10 years, they can become very well saved. Yeah, I would agree with. That's a good saving. The problem is people won't hold it because of how volatile it is. Too many meme boyish price predictions here. Time to take some profits off the table. I just have my O on the app. How do I bridge it and then move it to tangent? Well, you don't want to bridge it because the problem with O on the BNB chain is because it's a layer 1, most of the liquidity is on the layer 1. And they're on Ethereum and they're on BNB, but the liquidity is like 100 to 200K, which is not the best, but that's how the liquidity is because all the liquidity is on the main chain is a layer 1. They can bridge over to other chains, but liquidity is not going to be there. Obviously, liquidity increases as the token price increases and the volume increases. But keep it on the O app. That's where I keep my stuff, my wallet as well. It's a very safe wallet. I've been holding it for over a year now and had no problems. You can even do the data hub stuff on there and earn some more. So just keep it on there, my friend. Keep it on MetaMask. If you want to keep it on the O mainnet, then you can move it to MetaMask as well. I have some on MetaMask and I have some on O wallet. But I don't know when they're going to add it onto Tangent because, like I said, it's a layer 1. Tangent is not going to add just any layer 1s. They're going to add specific, really, most talked about layer 1s. That's what they'll do. So they're only going to talk about everything. Botify, sorry to bother you again. Let me have a look, my friend. We can have a look together. Botify. It sounds like one of those DGen coins that just come out. And it looks like it'll be on Solana. Yep. 10 million. It's just launched. Looks like brand. Oh, no, it hasn't just launched. So it came out in Jan at the worst time possible. Let's have a look at what it is. Botify Cloud is the Shopify of AI, of crypto. So they have custom agents, of course. These partnerships are 100% fake. Mexi, Gates, Radium, Jupiter. Okay. So agent creation, sell your agents to marketplace. I like the concept in terms of making agents and then selling them. That's actually pretty decent. This is DJ, my friend. It's very DJ. For $10 million, a project that's like this, that's 10 million. I personally would not. I would not invest into it just personally. If you want to buy something, just trade it. These type of projects will give you a 2x in a very short period of time because the liquidity is like 200k. Yes, the market cap might be 10 million, but if you go on the liquidity is probably like 200k, 250k max. So all you need realistically is a few hundred grand to 2x it. So I personally would only trade these type of projects. I would definitely not buy it now after this pump, but it's not anything sufficient. It's not one of those projects that's gonna just do crazy numbers because it's so niche. It's AI agents for Shopify, but why do we need? Like I said, all these projects that want to be the Web3 version of the Web2 stuff tends to die out. So I wouldn't invest into it, my friend. I would only do as a trade investment, like in terms of I'll buy it down here and then sell it up here, buy it down here and sell it up here like that. Trade it, make money like that. Even XL, bro, don't pay attention, bro. Don't worry. Don't pay attention to people like that, bro. The whole market dropped. Like I said, Ethereum dropped 50%. Bitcoin dropped 33%. When Bitcoin drops 33%, just know your fucking altcoins are gonna get ripped. Which three projects would you focus on now? Propbase and AT. Yeah, Propbase is another one actually that I really, really like. Propbase, despite being on Aptos, and I do think Aptos will do well in terms of it will have his moments. And I think once Aptos has that moment, I think this project will follow suit. I think this project will follow suit because it does tend to follow Aptos, and Aptos does back this project very, very closely because in terms of the Aptos chain, I think this is by far the best project. And that's why Aptos continuously support this. And Aptos has stupid amounts of money behind it. Stupid amounts of money. So, these guys will never be short of funding from Aptos, which is very good. But these guys have been doing very well recently, and I think it'll do very well in the future. It's been holding since March very, very impressively. Slow grind, and it will probably go up. This is a slow mover, but you can just really explode at times because of how bullish the consistent bullish news they drop. Nye as well. Nye pumped around 50%, so it's a pretty good pump. It's having a little cool off now, which is normal. You're always gonna get, after pumping so much, you're gonna get cool off. But 28%, I think at one point it was up like 45%, 50% at the top. Skillers, good to see you, bro. How you been? Nye worries me a bit because the CEO is the same as NXRA. It wasn't the CEO. The NXRA has a few co-founders. He was part of the team, yes. He was part of the team. NXRA is still alive, but I did consider this because these motherfuckers, NXRA, pretty much fucking got hacked apparently twice. But I don't believe it. No one believes it. When a project says they get hacked, randomly, is a lie. It tends to be a lie, but he done fairly well, and I do think he'll probably do well again, just because it's just RWA. RWA is such a strong narrative that it will do well. Just because it's just RWA. That's it. So I think NXRA will do well, but he wasn't the CEO of the same. He was a co-founder of both projects. And NXRA is still alive, but I think the money they took with whatever the fuck they rugged from this shit, or how much money they took from this, I think they've just invested it into Nye, which is not bad. So yeah, I did consider this, but so far it hasn't really done anything stupid. Like I'm checking the wallets regularly, so they haven't done anything crazy. Nothing to be worried about, in my opinion. It's one of those that I will take profits earlier though. I think realistic for this current price, well, not current, but let's say obviously you don't want to be buying now because Sensei has pumped a decent amount. He just wicked up aggressively earlier to about 0.017. It won't show on here, but next he just had a crazy week, and it's up 30% pretty much on the week. So I would not be buying this now. However, at $7 million in market cap, this is an easy 20x, easy 20x. Because for this to do a 20x, all you need is 140 max. Because there's no unlocks are very very minimal for the next 2 years now, year and a half. So there's nothing to be worried about in terms of the unlock size. And I do think this project, in terms of what they're building, I think it has a lot of mainstream. It can get mainstream adoption. So yeah, I'm very, very bullish. And the recent talks was the rumors that they're in. Well, I already knew they were in talks with Bybit, but someone from the Bybit listing thing reached out to them and said, on the Telegram, you guys can check it yourself. Just go on the Telegram, type in Bybit. Someone from Bybit reached out to them and said, who do I talk to regarding this thing? And the guy replied, we're already in talks with you. So like I said, they are potentially going to get a listing on some, the goal was to get KuCoin, OKX, or Bybit, either one of the tier 2s, and then maybe another tier 3. So they are going to get a tier 2 listing, I do think, when the market heats up a bit. And then, this from there, this will do very, very well in a very quick manner, because you don't need a lot of money to pump this. The liquidity is probably like a few hundred K. So once the money flows back into AI, this is going to start flying. And there's a lot of YouTubers that talk, a lot of shillers talk about this. The reason this always moves quick and always struggles in terms of short-term price action is very simple. Barely anyone talk about it. And that's a good thing in the sense where you're quite early. I think once the masses find out about this, it's just going to do stupid numbers. Whereas Sensei, it will always move quick because so many people was talking about it on the previous pump. Now, when the market flips bullish, it's always going to pump because a lot of people have it on their watch list. That's why. So the watch list stuff does make a difference. Gotta keep that in mind. The fuck, bro? You joining through what, bro? Fuck's sakes. What could be the catalyst to force Fed to start QE, and what will the time? Look, I've explained this on previous live streams, Relentless, and I'll explain it in a very quick, short-term manner because I'm only going to be live for 1 hour today. I don't want to be live for too long. If I drag it on, it's just going to be a Q&A. I'll probably do a Q&A maybe tomorrow. I'm not doing anything tomorrow anyway. So my thesis at the moment in terms of where the crypto market is going to go for the next year and a half, maybe 2 years, my prediction is we're not going to get QE anytime this year, unless something crazy happens, bro. Something, I don't know, some World War III type of shit. Then they would turn the money printers on anyways, because during war, the money printers turn on non-stop. Risk assets go up stupid amounts. But if you're in that country that's in the war, then you're not, the last things on your mind is, fucking what's crypto going to do? What's Bitcoin going to do? You're going to be on the front lines. So the reality is QE, in my opinion, will come end of 2026. So I think we'll get a pump between now to the end of the year. And going into that pump, we will get a recession into maybe end of 2025, early 2026, or even, most likely end of 2025 into Q1 2026, we will get into a recession. And while we go into this recession, by that time, the Fed would already cut 3 basis points. Well, let's say 3 more rate cuts from the Fed. Could be 1 basis point. It could be 1.25. We don't know. It could be a 50. It could be, they are going to cut interest rates at least 2 to 3 times this year. Very obvious. Inflation is going down. Unemployment is trending slowly back higher. That is the recipe for rate cuts. And I think the Fed will do waves of QE throughout 2026. So when the market goes into a recession, they'll do 2 to 3 trillion, maybe 1 to 2 trillion. They're going to do small amounts of QE, and they're going to realize the market will obviously react. It will have a bounce on the QE news. It will be short term. It will probably last a week, a couple of days. And they're going to realize this QE, this 2 to 3 trillion is not doing shit. And then they're going to maybe increase it to 3 to 4 trillion. And they're going to realize that it's not doing anything. And then once they realize that this small amounts of QE is not going to do anything, I think by the end of 2026, possibly early 2027, my thesis is end of 2026, the Fed will do a COVID, if not bigger, style of QE, where they will literally print 10 to 20 trillion in one go. And anyone that is smart enough to buy during the recession, because when we go into recession, the last thing that's on people's mind, and this is why very few people actually get rich. And you see it now. How many people were calling for a bear market scared as soon as the market tanked? This is what retail does, and this is why very few people survive in the crypto world, because they get when everyone starts fear mongering, people fall for it. This is why you have to learn macro stuff, is just so you can understand how everything will work. But anyways, end of 2026, I think mass QE will begin, and anyone who spent 2025 stacking as much cash as possible, going into 2026, and they buy assets that will do well and that are actually a legit business that's actually developing something worthwhile, and you get into the right narratives at during that recession period, then those are the people that's going to become millionaires. Because once the printing starts, you can go back and turn your brain off. Your brain doesn't need to work anymore. You buy anything and it'll pump 5 to 10x. Some of them will pump even more, hundreds of x's, you're going to see. Because in the bear market, that is when everything becomes so cheap that you could get, a million tokens for like $100 or $200. Whereas in the bull market, a million tokens would have cost you 100 grand. That's the difference. That's how much these tokens go down, 99.9%. You get them, as cheap as possible. You have to pick the right ones though, because a lot of them will just die, and people will, they'll kill that project, launch a new one, whichever narrative is hard at the time. You have to keep that in mind as well. So you might like a project now, and it goes into the bear market, it's down 99.9%. The reality is it can pump here and there, but is it going to survive? Look how many projects that was around in 2020 and 2022, or 2022, sorry, that's just dead now. No one talks about them anymore. There's so many. It's all about the right narratives. You have to catch the narratives. You could buy anything in the narrative of the prompt. If you bought any AI coin that was on the AI, list in 2022, you would have made 100x, 50x minimum, because they all went done in stupid numbers. And as the catalyst pumps, as the narrative pumps, more and more coins will come out in that narrative. But you have to front run the narrative. So you have to open your brain and think, what is the future moving forward? What's going to be the narrative? What's going to be the topic? It was obvious the RWA back in 2022, AI was going to be that future, because they were around last cycle, but no one cared about them. People were, fixated on gaming, layer ones, etc. Because DeFi, that was what was hot at the time. This cycle, gaming's dead, layer one's dead, and DeFi is dead. However, RWA and AI is the main narrative. Meme coins as well. Meme coins were around, but no one, there was only 2 meme coins that done stupid numbers. Apart from that, no one gave a shit. So, now next cycle will be different. It'll be new narratives. You have to catch the narrative to make the life-changing money. Even if there's no QE, if you catch the right narratives, you can still make stupid amounts of money in the bear market. But I do think 2026, you can turn your brain off. End of 2026, have money, invest into the right assets. You will make stupid amounts of money. It's that simple. Skill is good to see, but I don't know if it's ever been addressed. If so, sorry. No, it has been addressed. I've thought about it before. I actually wanted to invest into it. Fantastic, or good to see. Boys, smash the like. Let's get to 100 likes minimum. I would appreciate that loads. I hope all is able to touch 3 to 100 billion at least this cycle. Not too much hopeful. Yeah, I think, look, people don't realize in the bull market, a decent project will do 200 million. A decent project. If you get very good projects like they will do at least 3 to 500 million. And that's being conservative. You want to be conservative because you walk away with money. If you become too much of a bull, the reality is you're going to end up becoming a bag holder, because you're gonna see a project do a 10x, 20x, 30x. You're not going to take profits because you're expecting a 50x to 100x. And the reality is it won't come. And then I've explained this very, people. This is what happens to a lot of people, right? They'll see a project pump this much. Maybe this is not the right example. Hold on. Let's go on BNB, bro. Let's do BNB, for example, right? BNB, let's go on Max, right? So this is what happens to people. People will take profits, here, or people will not take profits here, and then let's do down here actually, because this one will go into the bear market, right? So BNB pumped to 300, 650. It comes down, and then people, this is what people say, right? Oh, as soon as it goes to 650, I'm going to take profits. And then it goes to what? It goes to just below 650, maybe it goes to like 620. I don't know what the fuck the top is there. Okay, so yes, it's 620. They don't take profits because they're waiting for 650. And then they'll be like, oh, and then it drops one more time, comes down to 525, 527. And they're like, oh, if it just goes back up here, I'll take profits this time. This is what happens to a lot of people because they become denial. They can't accept that we're going into a bear market, and then it comes back lower down here, and then they say, oh, if it just goes back up here, and they repeat this cycle over and over again to the point where it comes down here, and then they start taking profits. But by that time, they've just missed stupid amounts of money. So the best approach is if you bought down here, for example, let's say, let me go back. Let's say you bought down here at $22, at $12. You have to DCA out. You don't just wait for one market cap price that some YouTuber told you this coin is going to go to 500 million or 1 billion. You don't wait for that because the reality is no one knows, no one knew down here at $5, at $12 that BNB was going to go on to do, to go to 100 billion. Did anyone know that? The reality is no one knew that. People was probably throwing out stupid numbers, but obviously maybe one lucky guy threw a number and he got it right. But the reality is no one knew. No one's ever going to know what a project's going to do in the bull run. So what you do is you don't listen to YouTubers. This is why I hate when people ask me, how much X can this project do? I don't know. My guess is as good as yours. No one knows how much X this project's going to do. So what you do is when it starts to pump, you DCA out in stages. That way, you're guaranteed to make money. Because like I said, this shit is not a fucking sprint, it's a marathon. You don't have to get rich in one cycle. It can take you another cycle, it can take you 2 cycles, it's fine. Getting rich doesn't have to happen quick. If you get rich quick, you're just gonna lose the money because you don't know how to fucking hold onto your money. If you do it slowly in a marathon, you walk away with some money this cycle, but you learn everything in going into the next cycle, and then you can start making stupid amounts of money. It doesn't have to be a sprint. Make it a marathon. Have that marathon mindset. So people that have the marathon mindset will always win. Because the people that want to go chase gains in the short term, they can make money on one coin. They can just lose it on the other. That's how it is. So you DCA in, the same way you DCA in is the same way you DCA out. If you got in at 2 and it does a 10x at 200, you take some money off the table. You don't wait for it to keep going higher. Because when it pumps up here and it comes down here, you're going to panic sell everything, thinking it's going to go to the bottom, and then it's going to go back up. And then as it's going back up, you're going to FOMO back in. And then guess what happens? You're not going to sell because you think it's going to go past this level, and you end up losing all your money. That's what happens. People round trip as well. So DCA in, DCA out. Once you've made your money, don't look back on that project. Because what I know is, and this happens to me as well sometimes, when I buy a project and I've sold my position, I've left a small moon bag, there's always that thought in your head, what if, oh, I missed out on this. Don't have that mindset because that mindset is going to ruin your taking profits ability. Because, let's say you hold another coin and you don't, and you wait, and then you end up becoming a bag holder because it just rugs. Because some of these projects in the bull run will rug, a lot of them will rug. They'll pull the liquidity. They won't just rug in the sense of a slow decline. They will just pull the liquidity. You could have 500K in there, you could have 200K in there, you could have 50K in there. You won't be able to cash out because they will pull the liquidity. This is something that most people that's never seen a bull run forget. I got rugged last bull run. I had 80K in the coin. I woke up and it was worth a few $1,000s. And then they pulled the liquidity. If I didn't get my 2,000-3,000 out, I would have just walked away with nothing. But I could have made 80K, but I didn't cash out because I got greedy. And then that's when I learned you have to DCA out because you will get rugged in a bull run. So many projects are going to pull liquidities. And there's nothing you can do about it because if you don't have a doc steam, the basic shit, even the ones with the doc steam could do it. Can I talk about more narrative hopping? Yes. So a lot of people don't understand and I've been saying this for so many years, and I think a lot of people are starting to catch on now about this narrative system, that how the crypto market works. This is how I made my money in 2023, 2024 cycle. It was about narrative hopping. What you do is, because crypto now has become, too many narratives, too many coins, right? So what happens is in crypto is you get periods of time. It could be a month, it could be a month and a half, where a specific narrative will do better than every other narrative. So, for example, last year we had meme coins doing well, and then meme coins died. A lot of meme coins took a hit, and then AI agent starts to rally. So what you do is, all the money now you've made in AI agents, you take profits and you move it into the next narrative that hasn't pumped yet. But you can only do this if the market has sustainable pumps for at least 3 to 5 months. Because we would have had this back in 2023, maybe early 2024, just like 2024, early 2025, if Powell, didn't come out and say, we're not going to cut interest rates this year, we've reduced it, the market would have continued to rally, because we was in extreme greed. For us to see the crazy old season, we need to be in extreme greed for at least 3 weeks to a month. That is when peak euphoria kicks in, when we stay in extreme greed for at least 3 weeks to a month. That is when the old season happens. And that's why we was in extreme greed for a couple of weeks. And that's why dominance went down from 61 to 53%, 54%. That's what happens when we go into extreme greed and euphoria kicks in. And that money that was all in AI agents, because it got cut short, you guys didn't witness it, but all the money that was in AI agents would have moved into gaming or RWA or other AI coins. That's what would have happened. So you have to understand that once a narrative keeps pumping, it's not going to pump forever. That's what people will tell you, but the reality is they're not. People will start looking into other assets, other narratives. So you take your profits and try to front run the next narrative, but you don't know which narrative is going to pump next, because it's impossible to get. You can guess it in the sense where you go on events moving forward. So for example, if the market would continue to pump, RWA would have pumped a few months ago, based on the fact that BlackRock's build was doing very well, was bringing in a lot of volume, and then based on that news, the RWA narrative would have kicked off, and then the money could have went into gaming, because gaming hadn't pumped for over a year, and all the whales would have just started pumping the gaming coins. And when Mavia pumped, that could have been, if the market was hot, that would have been the start of the gaming narrative. All it takes is the top coin, whether it's I don't know, Axie and all these coins start pumping randomly. That's a shift in gaming. People now, whales are now looking for gaming projects to pump and make retail formal wins so they can cash out. That's what happens, and then the sentiment just shifts over to gaming, and everyone starts talking about gaming. All the YouTubers start talking about gaming, and everyone's looking for the gaming coin that hasn't pumped. That's how it works. So you have to let the narrative pump for at least a month, and after that month, you start taking profits and moving it into the next narrative. But like I said, you have to keep on top of the macro stuff, because if inflation or unemployment starts going up, this isn't 2023, 2024, where no one really cared about that type of stuff too much. I did, and that's how I managed to get out in March, because unemployment was creeping higher, gold was breaking out, and USDT dominance hit his long-term trend line. Those are the indicators to take profits. But most people was because the market was so hard. This is how people get caught out and become back orders. You will never know it's the top. No one will know. There's signals and signs that will tell you it's the top. But because everyone's in peak euphoria mode, no one knows. Everyone's just calling for the next 1,000 next Bitcoin to go to 100K next week. That's what happens. So yeah, that's how the narrative hopping works, my friend. But because now is a business cycle, it's a bit harder to do, because you can pump for a month. Like for example, we pumped for a month, and it was only AI agent coins that were pumping mainly. We never got to see other narratives really pump, because power cut it short. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Best luck at Pooh, good to see you, my friend. I appreciate that as well. Great stream as always. Gotta go catch up later. Smash the likes. Get this 200 likes. Cool guy. Appreciate it, my friend. What do I think the top will be in? If we get a blow off top now in the next couple of months, then that will be the top. However, if Bitcoin is just steady not really doing anything, will come retrace one more time and then go higher slowly, then the reality is we'll probably top somewhere in Q3, maybe early Q4. But don't be too, don't think why isn't my altcoin pumping? If you hold a specific altcoin that's not pumping, the reality is it's not going to pump because dominance is at all-time highs. Yes, the only thing that's pumping is existing USDT that's been stacked up entering the markets now. So rally back up one more time, and you're going to get more buying opportunities. So don't FOMO in now. Unless you're doing tiny DCAs. If you miss this double bottom over here, just wait. Just wait. Only buy projects that hasn't pumped, that you have conviction on. It's that simple. On that note, guys, drop a like if you haven't already done so. Hope you guys had enjoyed the stream. Just to summarize the entire stream, we do have major catalysts coming up. One of them is very, very simple. We do have GDP that will come out on the 30th of April and is forecasted to come in at minus 1.2. This will shit the markets if it comes in as 1.2. So you have to be very careful. The last time we had this was in Q1 22. Everyone was screaming recession. This is the first time it would happen in over 2 years. That we'll get another negative print. So this will shit the markets, like I said. So you have to be very vigilant. Keep an eye on this day. Make sure you don't miss this because this will indicate whether the market will continue to rally or have a major crash where the Fed may come and NQT and potentially come to the rescue and start maybe do an emergency cut. So GDP going down is a major catalyst, and this is the result of Doge. They're cutting a lot of government spending. They're getting rid of a lot of people in the IRS. They're getting rid of a lot of government staff. And that's what happens. GDP goes down. So, it's all by design, but we're not out of the woodworks just yet. So keep that in mind. I know a lot of people is going to be bull posted now, but don't listen to those people. We are here to be as realistic as possible. BOJ isn't likely to do anything, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you. We've done very well before. Done very well. So, it's not one of those that's allergic to pumps. It's pumped before. So yeah. Let me just answer one more question on it. Do I think this cycle could run into 2026? I don't think it's very likely. No, I don't think it's likely. I think recession levels recession scares will probably worsen towards the end of the year. That's what my prediction is. Agent Tank, is that still around? I fully forgot about that actually. Agent Tank. I actually traded this at one point, made some decent money on it. Still around. Fucking hell. Yeah, I traded this, but it's not a long-term hold, bro. These projects are scammy. How much is all in the description, bro. Join the coffee link. It's all in the description. SF, good to see you, bro. I'm eagerly waiting for your private group. Yeah, all the links in the description. Click on Ko-fi and join there, but I'm gonna lock it up soon. I don't want a lot of new people joining. Any good idea on the ballpark market cap OTK ones? Yeah, look, OTK, despite it's one of those that will always pump when the market flips bullish. It pumped today. It pumped about 30%, so 26%, whatever it says. It was actually 35, I think, at one point. It will always pump when the market's bullish, and this is one of those projects that always develops no matter what the market condition is, and that's what you kind of want to see. To go to the token 249 event in Dubai, which is good because they can form new partnerships there, get new people to play the game, and they're backed by Solana. I only like projects that are backed by Solana because Solana will always fund the ecosystem. That's one thing I like about Solana. Totally will always show the CEO, co-founder, he will always show the ecosystem coins. He wants them to do well, and that's a good sign. And OTK has been pretty much partnering with all these major gaming coins or meme coins and then making games out of them. And it's going to be on the Solana phone as well. This is going to be on the Solana phone, which is massive. It's going to bring a lot more people into this. So yeah, I'm very, very bullish. OTK and the Solana phone will bring a lot of attraction to it because everyone's going to be talking about the Solana phone at some point, and they're going to talk about the apps on the platform. And if OTK is on there, that will be a catalyst for this to pump. So don't fade it because gaming is dead. It will wake up. Based on your thesis mentioned earlier, do you? Yes. I'll definitely be selling Wasim. Definitely. I'm not gonna hold my shit because it's pointless. You know, is I don't really see the point of selling or holding on to any coin during a recession. It doesn't make sense. Appreciate that, buddy. I've been hearing some bad things about AI tech. Can you discuss? I already talked about AI tech. So AI tech had a lot of selling pressure throughout 2024, and that's why it didn't really do too much. However, that selling pressure has recently stopped. Very, very obvious. Price has gone up, and the volume has increased significantly. It's 2x volume increase. You know, so that's the thing with AI tech is the narrative for AI tech has been dead. Just look at Render, right? Render's been in the same place, and this is when people say specific narratives, cater to specific coins. This caters to the RWA narrative. I mean, the deeper narrative. Just look for the last year. How much has this pumped? In 2024, when the market got bullish, it pumped from $4 to $10. That's not enough to trigger an RWA, a deepen pump, and it just went to shits. And this is an indicator of how well the deeper narrative has been doing recently. Look at Ionet. Ionet, a legit business that brings in or brought in $10 million in revenue. This is what the deeper narrative looks like at the moment. So it's not specifically AI tech, it's the narrative itself is dead. Look at Natix. Natix is another deepin coin. It's been dead. This is what deepin coins look like right now. What's another one? Hive Maker. Let's look at Hive Mapper. What the fuck is called? This is another one. Look how deepin narratives look. This is not an AI tech problem. This is a market problem as well as the dead narrative AI tech, despite whatever the fuck he wants to do regarding, AI agent marketplace. That's all buzzwords they've added to pump the coin. The reality is, it's always been known as a GPU deepin coin. Because the narrative has been so dead, of course, it's not going to perform. Yes, they are very good marketers. And when the narrative kicks in, it will pump again because of their marketing. And and if the data center is real and is actually being built, it's going to generate them a lot of revenue and burn a lot more AI tech. So that is, I still hold my token. I'm still bullish on it, and I just think the reason it hasn't been doing so well is because have you heard anyone for the last year and a half now talk about deepin? They haven't, because Render has not been performing enough for it to cause a deepin pump. This is from 2022, 2023. The reason deepin became a hot narrative was because Render did this. This is what Render done. This is what caused deepin from Claw AI, GPUs, and all this stuff in 2023, 2024. The reason they were going crazy was because the deepin narrative was a narrative at that point. At the moment, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look anything like this. If it starts going $12, $15, $16, whatever, that's the deeper narrative. Or even if it goes back to all-time highs, slightly higher, that's enough to trigger a deeper narrative. But it's not going to do that when it's looking like this. So it's not a project itself. I think it's a deeper narrative problem. The deeper coins have just not been performing the last year because no one's been talking about them. That's all it is. Even NOS, yeah, exactly. One's popular, it's all about narrative. Exactly, my friend. Look at NOS as well. One of the biggest performers in 2023 and 2024. This shit done. Look how much this fucking pumped. It pumped 600, 700x. This was the deeper narrative in 2023 to 2024. NOS went from 1 cent to $7.50, damn near. It's all about narrative. Blue Moss got it bang on. It's all about narrative. When the narrative comes back, this shit will pump again. But because the narrative is dead, just like gaming, look at Naka. Naka's been posting every single day, making new games every single day, forming partnerships with Binance and some of these crazy big companies. And the price doesn't move because no one gives a shit about gaming at the moment. However, when gaming comes back, just look at the post new games, they make new games, They post 3 to 4 times a day with news, partnerships, and whatever, and it doesn't pop. They got a Microsoft grant, and no one gave a shit. And it's not because NAC is a shit coin. It's not. It's making some stupid, crazy stuff, But the reality is, the reason it's not going anywhere, it's not pumping, is specifically narrative driven. The narrative gaming has been dead since 2023, 2024 times. That's all it is. So you could either hold onto the coin and think or hope that I think gaming will pump at some point, and I think DP will pump again because everything needs GPU, and that's why I think DP will always be a narrative in crypto. If something is needed in the real world, it will be a narrative. That's how it is. If something's popular in the real world, it will also be a narrative. That's all it is. Natics dumping when everyone's pumping. Yeah, it's just the narrative is so dead, bro. It's no problem, my friend. No problem. That's all it is. But yeah, look, it hasn't been the best performer, and that's mainly because of that narrative issues. I think it's more a narrative issue, and then also the selling pressure from unlocks issue as well. But luckily, because it had such good volume, even though it tanked a lot, some of the other projects might have even rugged that amount of selling pressure that was coming. Let me see. Did I miss any major pumps? Nope. Oh yeah, BlackRock, ARK, Fidelity bought 700 million worth of Bitcoin today, and these guys contributed to the pump. You got to keep in mind, just because these guys are obviously buying, they could just sell it in a few days. Keep that in mind. So it's not just a one-way street where they can only buy and not sell. It works both ways. They can also sell. JP Morgan predicts tokenized treasuries, RWAs, could soon replace stablecoins cash reserves. In mind, RWA will always be a narrative. You have to look at events from the big companies and see what they're saying, and any little product or announcement or something will trigger a pump. LogX is doing a DAO, and they're going to burn 5 million tokens. So that's a good addition for that project. What else is there? I think that's it, actually. That's pretty much it. Mavia, Mavia's been doing very well as well. And Mavia is like one of those where if you start shorting this and mass shorting it, the market makers will start pumping it. And now it's flying. Because over here, right, we had too many shorts and people were shorting it too much, and then we exploded up. Over here, 6 people was waiting for 12, shorting it, and then it just exploded up. Came back down, and now it's exploding back up. And look at the volume. The volume is pretty impressive. Maybe Mavia could trigger at some point a gaming run when Binance wants it to pump. So yeah. Anyways, guys, on that note, appreciate all of you guys for coming down. Hit the likes if you haven't already done so. I will be live potentially tomorrow, if not definitely Friday. Friday is the day that I always go live on. For now, enjoy the pump. I will be live streaming after the announcement on the GDP, because it will affect the markets in a positive way or in a negative way. We'll have to see. Are they going to artificially bring GDP higher, or are they going to release the real numbers and it comes in minus 1.5, and then we see a major crash in the markets? And when the GDP goes that low, it's very, very likely the Fed will intervene, whether it's emergency rate cuts, or I don't think it'll be QE, but it will probably be emergency rate cuts. But thank you guys for coming down today. Enjoy the rest of your week. I will see you guys in 1 to 2 days. Thanks as always. Sure, come on.